What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Happier, Healthier Arkansas podcast hosted by the Specific Chiropractic Centers. I'm Dr. Cam.
And I'm Dr. Chris, and we just want to thank you guys for tuning in to today's episode. If you haven't done so already, please click that subscribe button, and thank you for joining us on our mission towards making Arkansas the happiest and healthiest state on the planet.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Happier, Healthier Arkansas. I'm your co-host, Dr. Cam. Here we got Dr. Chris. Before we get started, we always like to ask, Dr. Chris, what are you sipping on?
With the Happier, Healthier Arkansas podcast, on a mission to make Arkansas the happiest, healthiest state on the planet, I am sipping on spiced blackberry focus times green tea kombucha, a combo never before tasted by myself, but tasted by Dr. Cam 2 days ago. Let's test it out.
Where we at?
Oh, that water's hot. It's opening. It's like a fruity mint opening experience.
You know, for me, I'm sipping on, Breathe Deep and Chai Rubios. Breathe Deep and Chai Rubios. Actually, in this mug, you can see Union Rescue Mission. I'm absolutely blessed to serve on the board of Union Rescue Mission. If you don't know their mission, go check it out. But what are we doing today for the podcast?
Today, so like we say, Free Flow Fridays. Kind of a tongue twister, actually, for myself.
The triple F. Free
FFF.
Flow Fridays.
FFF3 is actually a Q&A. So 2 days ago, we put out polls in multiple Facebook groups that we were part of on our Central Arkansas Health and Wellness, which is a free community. We also put it on our private inward-facing head pain support group for Arkansas. And for people that are in the private group, we're going to take care of you guys first, your guys' questions. In which case, this is a very, very private, specific group where we release information and health habits, things to pick up on that we don't really share with the public. So if you want to get in that group, please find it, request it, let us know.
What's the group called again?
The group is called Head Pain Relief Arkansas.
Head Pain Relief Arkansas.
That's where we put a lot of our private, more specific. So our question categories were cause of a chronic health condition, Dr. Cam and Dr. Chris's health habits, other, and talk about Arkansas. And so the one that was overwhelmingly popular was cause of a chronic health condition.
Sure was.
But so for a specific question regarding that, here's one.
Okay.
The person said, I read something earlier on this page saying Arkansas is one of the worst places to live when you have migraines. I'd like to know more about that because I've suffered with them since I was 8. Now, how many of those people are there in the state of Arkansas? Thousands.
Oh, yeah.
So, do you want to answer this one or me?
Yep. Well, we can kind of,
tag team.
We do well tag teaming, man. So, when it comes to Arkansas being one of the hardest places to live for migraine sufferers, I mean, that's a reality. We can even dive deeper in the realm of migraines when it comes to migraines and just overall chronic health conditions such as autoimmune, fibro, anything of that nature. Arkansas itself is not favorable for these chronic health conditions because what we have is we have a lack of where health actually comes from. So right now, we're currently rated 49th in overall health. Again, this is not including migraines. This is just overall health. And obviously you can put everything encompassing all into that. But we're number 49th out of 50 for overall health. And so obviously we know that there's a cause of a problem. So it's not only not favorable for migraine sufferers, but also for people with chronic health conditions in general.
Right, and so this question specifically was, why is Arkansas one of the worst places to have or to live when you have migraines? And so the main thing with that is because of storms.
Yes.
When storm fronts come through, it's a low pressure, and there's a relationship with pressure and fluid volume, in which case when we have low pressure, we're going to have high volume. So imagine in our head, our brain creates a fluid that protects it and nourishes it. It's called cerebrospinal fluid, and it's going to be built up within our brain and our skull, and then it needs to drain out.
Yep.
And so imagine if we have a storm coming through, we have low pressure, we're going to have more volume getting created. Therefore, when a storm comes through, we're going to have more of this fluid getting created inside of our skull and our brain. And if we have a misalignment of the top bone of the neck, that fluid won't be able to drain out. Therefore, that's why people, typically when they have migraines, they're going to get worse with storms. They're going to feel pressurized. And then they're also going to know when a storm is coming because they start having those feelings as well.
Which is it's almost pretty prophetic in a sense, because people will start to experience, like people will know days before that a storm is coming. And if you look at Arkansas itself, we're kind of tucked in between that tornado valley is what they call it. And it's because there's so many different pressure changes that are happening. Another big thing that we see is, especially here in Arkansas, there's a lot of companies that are moving to Arkansas, right? So the influx of companies that are moving to Arkansas, especially these companies that, they have chemicals and stuff like that going into the air causing pollution, naturally there's a chemical toxicity there inside of the air that's going to elicit a stress response inside of our body that will then cause those migraines specifically.
Very nice. Next question. This is actually from someone who is on the live. We are doing this episode live on Facebook, this Q&A session. So he said, the vagus nerve and its potential problems from stress and subluxation. So vagus nerve is one of the biggest nerves. It is the biggest nerve in the body, and it controls majority of functions of our organ system. So what's controlling our heart rate, what's controlling our breathing tone, what's controlling our stomach function, pancreas function, liver function, like literally all of our organs in our abdomen. This vagus nerve is that communication highway, but there's a control center for that. That control center for that is in our brainstem. So our brainstem is basically our control panel, the fuse box of the human body. In which case, if instead of people needing to go out and address the light or address where that information ends up, we want to go right at that control panel, make sure that control panel is functioning and firing properly. So when people say, okay, can you help out with the vagus nerve? We say we're actually addressing the thing that's controlling it.
Yeah, we love
vagus nerve is just a highway.
Yep. Oh, you guys take care of the vagus nerve? Well, actually, the vagus nerve is just a small fraction of the actual things that we take care of here. And that's because the vagus nerve, right, and obviously it has a ton of important autonomic functions. Gives a little glimpse into our challenge that we're working on. But the vagus nerve has a lot of autonomic functions. But when you look at the autonomic functions of the vagus nerve, that can be inhibited, but that's just the vagus nerve. There's a ton of other nerves inside of our body. Vagus nerve right now is just a buzzword. And so the vagus nerve is critical, don't get me wrong, it is critical, but again, it's just a small piece of the pie because that vagus nerve has to travel through somewhere. That vagus nerve has to go up and around right through the brainstem, which is why we focus on exactly what we focus on here on the upper two bones in the neck and the upper two bones in the neck exclusively.
So the vagus nerve is dominant for parasympathetic function. For those who do not know, there's an aspect of our nervous system. Actually, let me backtrack a little bit more. We're going to start big here.
Yep.
Okay, so we have a nervous system that's controlling everything that occurs in our body. Me being able to wave my hands like this, that's my nervous system doing it. It's not my muscles, it's my nervous system. There actually is no such thing as muscle memory. It's neurologic memory of making reminders of how we move. It's nerves that are controlling that. We have conscious ones, such as me talking or me picking up this cup of tea. And there's also unconscious ones of my stomach digesting this tea and accessing the nutrients from it.
Yep, and the motility or the action of moving it from point A to point B throughout the digestive system.
Right. So we have conscious and unconscious. With unconscious, that actual scientific word is called autonomic, aka automatic. It's stuff that's occurring without us needing to consciously think. What makes me hungry? What makes me thirsty? What makes me tired? What makes me energized? What's causing all these things? It's our autonomics, which then gets split off into two sub-pieces, sympathetic and parasympathetic. And so vagus nerve, the vagus nerve and its potential problems from stress and subluxation.
Yeah, that's an awesome question.
So the vagus nerve, it is the chief highway, the chief commander of our parasympathetic nervous system, which deals with rest and digest. So that's what's making us calm. That's what's making us able to actually process, digest, absorb all the foods that we have. That's what's going to make us sleep. That's what's going to make us relaxed.
So think of it this way. If you have the sympathetic nervous system that's coming from the autonomics, and you have the parasympathetic nervous system that's, again, a branch from the autonomics, sympathetic nervous system would say, hey, there's a fire going on inside of this clinic, and we're starting to see smoke. We feel the heat. And we know that there's a fire going on inside of the clinic. Obviously, our heart rate's going to increase, our breathing rate's going to increase. That's our sympathetic nervous system alerting us, telling us that there's a bigger problem happening. And so obviously we want to be alert, and that's what the sympathetic state does. The parasympathetic state,
It's fight or flight.
exactly. Sympathetic is fight or flight.
It's running away from the lion that's walking through the door and roaring at us. So
Yes.
it's what's causing us to get freaked out and have to run away and feeling like we're constantly in that state of like, I feel like I'm ready to fight someone,
Yep.
or I'm freaked out.
It's when someone cuts you off on Cantrell, Highway 10, that's the sympathetic nervous system.
Yeah.
When someone cuts you off on Highway 10, that's the sympathetic nervous system kicking in. Now, let's take that same smoke example. We heard the fire alarm going off in the clinic. Chris and I go to check, and we're like, okay, it's a false alarm. Well, then our parasympathetic nervous system needs to kick in, where everything starts coming back down, where we start feeling more relaxed, our muscles aren't tense, and everything of that nature. The parasympathetic is what Dr. Chris just said, the rest and digest state. That's where all of our proper functions through that rest and digest state actually happen. Okay. Now the issue.
And so to tie in and complete this question is, we can't have both systems going on at the same time.
Exactly.
It's one or the other. It's a switch. And so us at baseline should be in parasympathetic.
Yes.
Us at baseline, when we're sitting on a couch, we're relaxing, we should be in parasympathetic.
But now, Chris, let me ask you a question. Where do you think a majority of the world operates, sympathetic or parasympathetic?
The majority of the world is not just operating, but stuck in sympathetic due to the back end of this question from stress and thus subluxation. And people aren't going to know what subluxation is, but that's what we're addressing in our clinic with the top two bones of the neck, restoring proper function of the brainstem, which has the control panels, control centers for our vagus nerve, our parasympathetic nervous system, our cardiorespiratory system, our digestive centers, our sleep centers, our mood, behavior, and emotional regulatory centers, our muscle tone centers, and much more. And so when our system is stressed from either physical stressors, chemical stressors, emotional stressors, and the body can't clear itself out, then the vagus nerve, the function of it, will get shut down because that stress puts our body into a sympathetic state.
Yes.
And then we get stuck. And when we're stuck, what I mean by that is we can't switch back to parasympathetic.
You know what's interesting is we, as doctors, especially within the medical profession as a whole, we love to focus on physical stressors or physical traumas. You fell off a horse, you got in a car accident, and things of that nature. But we're starting to open up to more of the, COVID did a really good job at that, started opening up the chemical side of things, the chemical traumas that could actually be happening. But we rarely talk about the emotional stressors. And here's the thing, when it comes to emotional stressors, it's not just work is stressful. It could be work, it could be grief over a loved one, it could be a hard divorce. All these different things put a massive neurological harm on the nervous system, which over time will cause it to collapse on itself. And when you take all three of these stressors, physical, emotional, and physical, emotional, and chemical stressors, when you put these stressors onto the nervous system for a prolonged period of time, the nervous system can't keep up with itself. So what happens is it starts to shut down, muscles start to get tense, and that subluxation or misalignment starts to go in a position to protect itself, which will then lead to chronic conditions down the road.
Let's think about this real quick. Emotional stressors. How can emotions cause something physical to manifest? If I have something that I'm worrying about, I'm fretting an upcoming conversation, say I'm about to divorce someone, I'm fretting it, I'm worrying about it. That's going to actually cause our stress response to get turned on. In which case, all the hormones that are involved, I'm not going to go in on it. If you do want to listen to the hormone talk that I gave a couple weeks ago, it's on our YouTube channel. Go into specific chiropractic centers workshops and it'll be there. But when our emotions get ramped up and it turns on our stress response, which that's what Dr. Cam was saying about the fire alarm. Our heart rate's going to go up, our blood pressure's going to go up, our muscle tones are going to get taut and tense. And then if it's so dramatic that you're in that state for, like you said, a prolonged period of time, then those tense muscles, that stress and everything that's causing to freak out, the initial adaptation will be misaligning the top bone of the neck, and the body itself cannot remove that on its own. But we need to get that checked to see if that has happened. Typically that happens when we are a kid.
Yeah.
It happens when we're young.
And research shows 80% of births, even under optimal health condition or under optimal birthing conditions, that 80% of children will be born with some form of mild or moderate trauma towards the upper neck complex.
Absolutely. Okay, next question. Let's go in on this one.
important.
We're going to go in this one. So
Okay, Kenny, what you got for us?
he says, I want to see how to get someone to be motivated to receive the health transformation that God wants to give. People are so pharmacated, they cannot discern nor do the perfect will of God. It is like they are zombies. How is it ever going to be possible for them to receive anything? Before you go in, this, what he said, they're like zombies. To me, what thought of that was passengers.
Yep.
In which case, you know already what I'm going to say, but majority of humans right now are living a life in which case they are actually the passengers to their body and their mind, not the pilots of their actual life. They are not behind the driver's seat. They're sitting in the back of the Uber car, and the Uber car is just driving willy-nilly, chaotic, and they're just along for the ride, and they're like, you know what, as long as I get through the day,
Yep.
I'll be okay.
Yep.
And they're just trying to get to the weekend, and then they'll make it, instead of actually being in that state of activation and taking control of their life and their own health. So, all right.
So-
people to be motivated to receive health transformation
That
that is
God-
capable.
That God wants to give. People are so pharmacated they cannot discern nor do the perfect will of God. It's like they are zombies. How is it ever possible for them to receive anything? It's a fantastic question. Fantastic question. As a Christian myself, obviously, I believe in the death, burial, the resurrection, and the second coming of Jesus Christ, and what He has done for us, especially the healing properties that He has. Okay, when we look at this, how to motivate people from a Christian perspective. This is what I'm getting from this question. How to motivate people from a Christian perspective to be able to receive the healing, to receive the health information. We see it throughout Scripture where Jesus asked people, "Do you want to be healed?" A lot of times when people come into the clinic, what happens is they're already taking a first step on wanting to be healed. Okay. Most times when people come in here, they're at their wits' end. They've been everywhere, tried everything when it comes to their health, have gotten no results. They feel like they're on an island, and doctors have told them to some degree that it's all inside of their head. And so when they sit across from us, there's a huge sense of unbelief in us, really, right? You see it too. There's a huge sense of unbelief in us because they've already had and done everything. So like, how are we any different? And so there's a motivation process that has to be done there. And one of the questions that I actually love asking my patients is, what does your life look like if we snapped our fingers and all of it were to go away? What would your life look like if you snapped your fingers and everything were to go away? Man, I have something in my throat.
I think so. I'll piggyback while
Yeah.
Cam gets a breather from the phlegm. With the health transformation that God wants to give, but this one, how is it ever going to be possible for them to receive anything? I think for that can be if they don't even imagine what their life could look like if they didn't have it.
Yeah.
They haven't even done that thought or that process where it's like, imagine me in 10 years and I feel like I did when I was 22.
Yeah.
And so if they haven't actually done that introspective work of, this is the version of myself I want to be, this is where I'm at now, who are the people that I can go ask for help to help me get there?
Yeah.
If they haven't actually taken that step and they're like, this is it for me, this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to settle, and this is just, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm content.
And that's why we ask that question. We say, what does your life look like if this, because most people haven't done that. Right. Most people that have been suffering from migraines, the oldest or the most chronic case I have is 40 years with fibromyalgia. It's a long time.
Wow.
And that fibromyalgia is accompanied with migraines and a whole slew of other things. But when it comes to this, we have to allow people to be able to do an introspection of like, hey, what does your life look like if you were not to have this? And then it allows them to be able to think and understand, wow, I guess I never thought of that. I had this one case, his whole goal was, I want to get on a boat and drink a beer.
Wow.
I mean, that's what he said. I just want to get on a boat and have a beer and fish because he suffered from vertigo. But it's like, we love to, and the reason why we ask that question is because we like to walk with someone on this journey. But it starts, the question is, how is it ever possible, or how is it ever going to be possible for them to receive anything? It's because we have to get them to understand, do you want to be healed? And we ask that question by asking, what does your life look like? if you did not have this. And so it allows them to introspect, and then it allows us to be able to walk with them from point A to point B throughout the care plan process to be able to get them there.
Some people, you've said this in the past, but some people are actually attached to that version of themselves, and
Yes.
they are comfortable and okay with it, and so they settle for it.
Yes. I don't mean to cut you off, but
go
I feel
ahead.
really led to say this. For me, it was, I saw it in my mom, okay? I saw it in my mom where the doctors gave her 3 months to live with breast cancer. And what happened with her is she woke up every single day inside of her journal and she said her whole entire goal and motivation was to live long enough for my sister and I to be able to have memories of her. And so I still have this journal to this day where she's praying, Lord, another day with my children, another day with my children. My mom did not buy the agenda that the doctors told her she only has 3 months to live. And that was the first time in my life where I was actually able to understand, analyze, and realize the power that we have within ourselves. So to piggyback off that question, there's a lot of people, and the hardest people to have a conversation with are the people that embody the condition that they have. I am autoimmune. I am migraines. I am fibromyalgia. And the reality is, no, I am Dr. Cameron Daniels. This is Dr. Chris Brown. You or whoever you are, and you are your own individual person, and you are way greater than the diagnosis that you've been given.
Potent. And that can segue into this next question. Hopefully that made sense. It's really who you are, where you're at right now, where do you want to be, and who can you help, who can you ask for help to help you get to that point. What are the resources? And a lot of that does come from yourself. You are the source of the help for yourself. In which case it's taking action, it's identifying where am I falling in terms of my life and my habits that are causing me to where the version of me right now is that product.
Right.
And so what do I need to clean up? And there's another question right here. Big pharma pitfalls in the past. People are very interested
We have someone backing that up. They're
And-
like, yes.
yes.
They're like,
And-
talk about
and
that.
So that's one thing that I've been really analyzing recently is how we get food from our grocery stores. And you look at all the food that's available in the grocery store, and none of it is actually healthy. It's all inflammatory things, it's all processed things, it's all refined things. It's things that are easy to make an abundance of for cheap, for profit.
Fast.
And so for us, and also it tastes good.
Right.
So it tastes good. So when we eat it, we get a dopamine spike. And that dopamine, that's a molecule for reward and behavior, but also addiction. And so we get a dopamine spike, which means, oh, I feel good off this sugary blueberry muffin. This tastes great. And then they eat it for 10 straight years, and then they start getting symptoms. And then they go, oh, I'm gluten intolerant, or I can't eat this, I have to be vegan. And so they start having symptoms. And so now what happens is then they start taking a medication to moderate the symptoms
That was as a result of
of
eating
eating
that
the bad food.
the bad food for so long.
And they're probably just sitting on the couch, not exercising. They're probably not getting sunlight. They're probably not drinking water. They're probably drinking a Diet Coke or something instead. And then they start taking the medication to help them dampen the symptoms so they can get through another day, instead of addressing the actual issue, which is their own behavior. And so they take the medication. It makes them, the medication in the long run is going to get them sick. In which case, there's no such thing as side effects if it's directly caused from something that you took.
For sure.
It's a direct effect.
And I want to be very transparent about this because, for those of you that don't know, I wrestled in college and I loved wrestling. It changed my life. The worst thing that it ever did for me is my relationship with food. I would wake up on Monday after a meet, 300 pounds, and I would have to cut to 285 by Saturday. And I did that week after week after week. And while it taught me a lot of, discipline and, what my body's capable of, it absolutely destroyed my relationship with food. And it wasn't until after wrestling that I realized we eat for function, not for fun. We eat for function, not for fun. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, I love a tub of ice cream.
Oh, did I cut cake last night?
Oh, yeah. Like those things are fine. But the biggest thing for me is I would eat literally after a wrestling meet on Saturdays, I would eat an entire thing of pizza, wings, ranch, and all these different things just to weigh 300 pounds on Monday and have to not eat for 5 days just to make 285 on Monday or Saturday again.
That's crazy.
And so I had to learn afterwards, and I wanted to be one of those wrestlers. And when I stopped wrestling, I continued to be healthy afterwards because a lot of times after wrestling, people don't. So for me, I had to really, and even recently as well, I hired a health coach and everything like that because I wanted to continue to dive into the dynamics of it. But we have to understand that we eat for function, not for fun. And the sooner that we realize that, the easier it'll be for us to continue to implement that in our lives. And that's really a big pharma pitfall is not realizing.
Not addressing the function.
Not addressing the function.
Two things hyper quick, because I do want to I would love you to provide insights on the health coaching journey that you went on back in March. That was powerful stuff. So let me circle all back, pharma and stuff. Pharma medication can be over the counter as well. They help moderate the symptoms, but then eventually we're not going to feel as good. So what are we going to look to help us feel good is going to be the food to get that dopamine. Yes. That food that gets us that dopamine keeps us sick, therefore keeps us reliant on the prescription medication, and now we're stuck in this cycle on the merry-go-round. So 3 really easy filtering, 3 easy ways to filter out what foods to buy and what not to buy at the grocery store. Did it come from Mother Earth? Did it come from the ground? Easy way. Number 2, does it have more or less than 5 ingredients? If it has less, then you can buy it. If it has more, probably don't. You can make it even more strict, go to just 3. Last one is, does it have a word that you can't pronounce? If it has a word that you can't pronounce, probably from the factory. It's probably chemical, and it's probably not ideal for a human, and our body is going to interpret it as a poison.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if you had a flow ready for you. I don't know how much more time we got on this, but can you provide some insight on the program that you did? What was it? What did you have to do?
Yes.
What the heck is slow burn?
Yep.
This is a little Dr. Cam's healthy habits.
Oh, so okay, yeah, we're going to the health habits. So when I first started practice, I became so involved with my patients that I forgot to take care of myself. I had a gym membership. I still worked out. I loved working out. I loved lifting and stuff like that. But my diet was not up to par. Okay. Actually, I'm thinking about it. The shirt. I actually used to not be able to wear the shirt. It's my first time wearing the shirt in a while.
Wow.
But for me, I actually ended up jumping back to 300 pounds. And again, I truly believe in transparency and letting people know. I ended up getting back to 300 pounds, and I stepped on the scale and I looked at myself and I was like, what am I doing? Because if I die of like heart disease or something, thank God we have Chris and Grant, to be able to see my patients. But this was right around the time where I started saying Happier, Healthier Arkansas.
Yeah.
And so for me, there's a huge disconnect for me saying Happier, Healthier Arkansas and me being 300 pounds. There's a huge disconnect for that. And so what I did is I came, all three of us in the clinic were like brothers. So we all sat around and we talked about I wanted to invest in a health coach. And so my health coach, JT Tapias, he's absolutely incredible. He really helped anchor me towards behaviors that I had that related to me getting to 300 pounds, because it's all behavioral.
Yep.
Right? It's all behavioral. And if you can identify and control the behaviors, one of the fruits of the spirit is self-control. And so that was the one that I knew I was lacking in, especially as it relates to food. And so I wanted to go on this journey because I wanted to be able to, demonstrate a happier, healthier Arkansas, right? And be able to be there for my patients.
Walk your own talk.
Yeah, exactly. Walk my own talk and be there in the long term. So I've lost 30 pounds, still going.
What did you have to do? It was 12 weeks, right? It was 90 days.
Yep.
Because this is actually even tied into motivated someone to receive the transformation God wants to give. How is it ever going to be possible for them to receive anything? In which case, what we kind of said is envisioning the self version of you that you want to be.
Yeah.
Where you're at.
Yep.
And who can I ask for help to help me get there? Which that's what you did. So what was the actual? It was 90 days. What did you have to do?
So in those 90 days, the biggest one, I actually give a whole talk at Natural Grocers about this. Maybe we should do a workshop, because I know, you eat very clean as well.
Yep.
Very clean. Maybe we can do a nutrition workshop together. Yep. Kind of talk about this. But essentially the big one, there's 3 different phases: reset, reboot, and excel. The biggest one that all of you listening need to really understand is the reset phase, because that's going to help set you off. I was actually on that for 8 weeks. You're resetting the nervous system to be able to give it a fighting chance to receive the nutrients that you give itself during the reboot phase 2. No starchy carbs.
Okay.
No starchy carbs. Okay, and the reason why is because JT's program, his whole health program was all tailored around me breaking the behaviors, but also giving myself a fighting chance to be able to work at those behaviors. So starchy carbs or sugar, what those actually do is it increases an insulin response inside of your body and will increase the behavioral cravings.
The dopamine.
The
spike.
dopamine, exactly.
The addiction.
So we cut out the sugar, we cut out the starches, and then what we do is we focus on, and even starchy vegetables. But what we focus on is we focus on eating a ton of leafy greens. You know, you guys picked on me eating rabbit food, but here's the thing: the rabbit food, you know, tasted good, decent. But you know,
What's it called? A palate reset?
yeah. So you're resetting your palate. Exactly. You're resetting your palate so that way you're not increasing these neurological responses to cause a potential behavior of relapsing or eating sugar or anything of that nature.
So during the day, during the reset phase, this will probably be the last thing that we cover before we sign off. During the reset phase, what does your day of eating look like? What were your meals?
Okay, so my meals, what I would have is I ate at 10, 12, and this is for me, it's personalized, okay, but I ate at 10, 12:30, 4, and 7. And you have to break it up in certain aspects, okay? So at 10 p.m. 10 a.m. and 12:30 p.m., what I ate is I ate 4 fistfuls of green and leafy vegetables, whether it be, you know, bell peppers, or essentially the rainbow, right? Try to get a rainbow salad, 6 to 8 ounces of protein in that, and then 2 tablespoons of fat. The reason why fat's important because it helps alleviate any hunger pains that we may have.
Fat is also important for cell function and nerve function, and our body is consumed of fat protein.
Yeah.
And carbs is just utilized for energy. Fat can also be used for energy.
Yep, I actually talked about that last night at Natural Grocers.
Nice.
At that talk. You know, the myelin sheath are made of fat and helps potentiate the action potentials. So that's what I ate at 10 and 12:30. I had 6 to 8 ounces of protein, 4 fistfuls of
Leafy greens.
leafy greens, and then 2 tablespoons of fat, olive oil or something of that nature. 4 p.m. I'd have a protein shake. 7 p.m. I do the same thing as 10 and 12:30 with the exception of no fats. With the exception of no fats, because you want to go to bed essentially not in a starving state, but you want your body to be able to utilize the fat that's on you throughout the 8 hours of sleep that you're getting.
What was your protein shake source?
Protein shake source, the one I use Orgain. I really enjoy Orgain. You're talking about protein shake?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
so-
you had it for? Like, what was the brand?
Yeah, so Orgain, I use Orgain protein. I know, so Dr. Chris uses Naked Pea.
Naked pea protein.
Yep, Naked Pea.
One
Naked Pea,
ingredient.
yeah, Naked Pea is extremely good. It's extremely good. I like Orgain because it has certain
Amino acids.
yeah,
or-
amino acids, probiotics,
Okay.
and stuff like that inside of it. But that's the source that I use.
Okay. And then lastly, we can this could be an entire episode itself.
Yeah.
What was the exercise component or the sleep habits? Because with health, there's 5 pieces. You have nourishment, which that's getting addressed with the coaching challenge. You have movement, exercise, that's
Yep.
essential for human bodies. You have sleep, which is regeneration, recovery, that's essential. You have your outlook perspective, because we touched on earlier how your mind, behavior, and emotions can actually impact the stressors on your body and thus the function of your nervous system. And lastly, function, which is function of your nervous system, which is why getting your nervous system checked and tested is absolutely essential.
Yes.
What was the movement piece? You had to do these things called slow burn. I never heard of slow burn.
Yeah. So
yeah.
slow burn cardios. I'm not knocking CrossFit, or I'm not knocking lifting weights. I, again, was a big lifter, loved doing CrossFit style workouts, until JT said, for the first 8 weeks, don't do all of that. And I was like, how am I supposed to lose weight if I can't even work out? He said, you are going to work out, but you're going to do these things called slow burn cardio. Now, what's slow burn cardio? It's all dependent on heart rate, but essentially you want to walk at a brisk walk for 45 to 60 minutes. Try to push towards that 60 minutes because it's going to take about 45 minutes for you to utilize the sugars inside of your body, and then the last 15 minutes you're going to be in straight ketosis for your body to be able to utilize those fat fuels for an extra 15 minutes. Okay, so slow burn cardios, I did them 4 to 6 times a week. Really, I did them every day. 4 to 6 times a week for 45 to 60 minutes. And it's at a brisk walk. So I should be able to walk and have a conversation with Chris. It's kind of hard, but not really.
What was your target heart rate?
My target heart rate specifically was 125 to 145. That's based on my age. It's different for everyone, okay? So for example, if you were 35, it'd be 115 to 135 and then kind of go down the list. If you're 45, it would be 105 to 125 and things of that nature.
Now, real quick, you personalize this yourself, but what do you do during those walks? What do you do during them? You did them in the morning.
Yep. So during those walks, what I actually did, there's an awesome app out there talking about like what I did during the walks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I called them worship walks. Okay. And essentially what I did is I would either listen to scripture. Okay. There's an awesome app out there called Dwell. Dwell is a phenomenal app. It actually allows you to be able to listen to. It's like a story narration of the Bible as you continue to work through. So I did that. I also played worship music when I walked, and then I would also pray during those 45 to 60 minutes. Every single morning, obviously, I pray for my patients, pray for the docs in the clinic, and things of that nature. So I really utilized that time for worship as well. So that way, it kind of took out the monotony of just walking.
Yeah, absolutely. This is wonderful. We can do this for a very long time.
Yeah, I know.
And we're probably going to make Tony work way too hard editing all this
Yep.
this entire video. So we're going to wrap things up with this Q&A. We'll
Yep.
probably take these kind of questions and make them into one episode per question because we can really go down rabbit
for
holes.
sure.
Now, you mentioned an app called Dwell. There's also really another awesome app out there on the App Store.
Oh, yeah.
It's called the Specific Centers. That's a great way to get looped into what we're talking about, be more connected, start getting access to conditions that we might be able to help out with, who's the right person for upper cervical care, get to know us as the docs, get updates on the podcast or workshops that we're doing, or where we're going to be at in the community, just getting updates with all of those things.
Again, that app is called The Specific Centers.
Yes.
It's on Google Play.
Yep.
It's on the App Store. Just go in there.
It's a white S, or it's a white block with a gray S. It's free for everybody. And download that app, get connected. If you haven't been in our private Facebook group, please request to get that. If you want to get on, I do a brain health newsletter. Cam does Wednesday devotionals. Cam has a 14-day habit reset challenge. So
Got a lot of different ways to get
literally a
plugged in.
living example with that. I have a 5-day nervous system challenge. We're going to be building a 14-day nervous system challenge. We have get subscribed to the podcast. There's so many avenues we can do.
And then the last thing we'd want you guys to check out is happierhealthierarkansas.com.
That is wonderful. Let's go.
So thank you all so much for tuning in today. We appreciate these questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to let us know. Subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Take care. Let us know your questions and everything so we can continue to have more inspiration and focus for our upcoming episodes. But hope you guys enjoy this and everything. We had a good time. Q&A, Free Flow Friday, number 3, done.
Until next time.
See ya.
We hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of Happier, Healthier Arkansas. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate your guys' support. Please click that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Thank you for joining us.
And if you're on a mission to help make Arkansas happier, healthier with us, again, please feel free to share this with anyone that you know so that way we can continue to help perpetuate the mission of making Arkansas the happiest, healthiest state on the entire planet.
Until next time,
See ya!